Hey there, it's Pete Thorn. Welcome to my home and another Wednesday Q&A video where I answer the questions that you ask me via sending me an email to my Facebook music page. It's facebook.com/guitarnerd. If you go there and send me a question, I will get to it as soon as I can in one of these Q&A videos that I put out each Wednesday. So question number one comes from Bram Janssens, and he says he'd like to ask, in my opinion, what would be the best way to record an electric guitar tone on a budget without using plugins? He said he wants to use his amp, but he can't mic it because of the neighbors, so I guess he can't turn up his amp very loud. He says he knows I've talked about load boxes before, and he found it very interesting, but he's looked them up online. He says they're all pretty expensive, so he's wondering if there's another way to record a quality tone in a digital audio workstation without breaking the bank. Well, honestly, I know I always talk about this one piece of gear, but the Sur Reactive Load is the one that I use all the time these days, and at $399, I don't know, I guess you could get a bottom of the barrel mic pre and maybe a Shure SM57 and a mic cable for $399 maybe, but you're not going to be able to get, I don't think, with that nearly the range and quality of tones that you can actually using a Sur Reactive Load and then some great impulse responses that have been professionally made. So yeah, $399 for a reactive load box. $49 for the Melamuse IR1 plugin, which is the impulse response loading plugin I use within Logic. It's really, really great. Works just terrific. It's got great file management, very organized, so that you can switch between all your different impulse responses very easily. And then beyond that, yeah, you just need some impulses. Now the Ownhammer impulses, the ones that I really like, they start at $5, I think, for some of their packages. So you can basically get in and get started for $5. Some of the more extensive packages are like, $10 or $20 each, but it's so affordable really for what you get. So yeah, under $500 I would say, and you're off and running, you're going to be able to get a great recorded guitar tone, and that's less than you're going to pay almost for like most decent mic pre's and one microphone. So I can't really think of a more affordable way to do it, and it's a really, really quality way to record guitar and totally silent to boot. Willem has a question about power soaks. He says a while ago I did a demo of some sort of power attenuator. I've done quite a few different ones, but he's just wondering, do they sound right? Because there's a lot that seem to suck tone. There's just some great ones out there on the market these days. My favorite types of power attenuation devices are actually reamp devices. Probably, I guess my favorite these days is the Fryette power station. So it is a reactive load box with a built-in reamping device. Got a 50-watt power amp built in. It'll load your guitar signal all the way down to line level, and then there's an effects loop in it if you want to patch in some effects. That's real handy if you've got an amp head that doesn't have an effects loop. So you can patch in some delay or reverb or whatever you want, and then it basically reamps the signal with its own internal power amp, 50-watt power amp that's very clean and very sort of linear and flat, so as to not affect the tone of your amp. And then you can reamp, your cranked up amp at any level, so you can, all the way down to practice volume if you want to, all the way up to gig volumes, because 50 watts is plenty for most gigs. So yeah, I think with the advent of a box like that, sort of the tonal concerns are all negated. I think there's just such great stuff out there these days for doing this. Some other devices, the Rivera Rock Crusher is really nice. I have one of those, and it's a more traditional attenuation device where it's not a reamp, it's a passive attenuation type device. It works really well too. So check out those two. Martin says that he's got a Vox AC15 amp with an upgraded blue speaker. I've got one of those as well. They sound just great. He's also looking for a complementary 15 to 20 watt amp with a different, perhaps, Marshall style or British sounding tone. He wants to run it in stereo as a sort of a wet dry rig, he says, possibly including an effects loop if his budget of £1,000 allows. Well, my favorite small 15 to 20 watt Marshall style amp head would actually be the Marshall 2061X, as far as something that's currently available. That's a really, really cool little amp. Yeah, it's 20 watts and sounds like a little baby plexi basically. They don't have an effects loop, but that's a really terrific option. So look into that, see if you can find them used. They're out there, they're hand wired, they're really cool. I don't know if you can get them for £1,000, but I would think so. I don't think that they would be more than that on the used market. I could be wrong. Really, really terrific sounding little amplifier. In the 15 to 20 watt range. Now, you might also look into a Sir Badger. They do have effects loops, and you could get a Badger 18. And the Badger 18 always strikes me as kind of a cross between sort of a Marshall and Vox sound, maybe a little warmer and smoother, but really, really versatile with the built-in power scaling, so that you can kind of knock back the volume on the amp and dial in pretty much any volume that you need. So yeah, check out those two, the Marshall 2061X and the Sir Badger 18. Phil wants to know about clean boost pedals. He wants a clean booster for blues and jazz. He wants to use it as well as a tube screamer pedal. He wants to run it after the tube screamer to be able to get a clean volume boost. And he says, can I recommend some pedals? There's so many good ones out there, really. There's a garbage truck out there. This always seems to happen when I'm making these videos. Let's see, so I'm going to recommend the TC Spark. It's really cool, and it also comes in a large or a smaller format version. It sounds really good for a clean boost. There's the Max Boost pedal from Rocket, and I've used that quite a bit on my pedal board. It's got a kind of it's a clean boost, but it'll alter your tone a little bit if you want it to. It's got this chime control on it that adds a slight sort of sparkle to the top end that I find really cool. Keeley Katana is really nice. It's crazy. I swear, every time I make one of these videos, this happens. But I'm kind of pressed for time today, so I'm just going to roll ahead with it and not refilm this segment. What else? For another small format pedal, the Exotic EP Boost is cool. It sort of alters the tone a bit. It fattens it a bit, but it's really pleasing sounding, I think. And there's a new Sir pedal on the market it's a dual boost. So actually in one pedal you get two boosts, and I think that's really cool. I just did a review on my YouTube channel of the Cumbre, it's called the Cumbre preamp from Agave, and it's another really nice option you could look into. It's also sort of a dual boost. Terry Goss has a couple quick questions. He's wondering what's my favorite AlwaysOn compressor. And he says he wants to know which ones will work well with overdrives and fuzzes, because regardless of chain placement, because sometimes they don't react well, compressors with overdrives and fuzzes. Well, you're going to always find that. You kind of got to run your compressor before your overdrive or your fuzz. I think that that's absolutely necessary. I just answered this question actually in a Premier Guitar article I'm writing today. Yeah, you can't really put a compressor after an overdrive or fuzz. You can, but you're going to raise the noise floor and it's going to hiss like crazy. Because compressors, they compress the signal, they bring the lower level signals up and higher level signals down. Well, you've got that hiss being produced by an overdrive or a fuzz or like a little bit of noise floor. It's just going to go crazy as soon as you run that into a compressor. A compressor. So yeah, just put the compression first in your chain. You're best off that way. And then as far as, you know, them playing with different pedals, well, yeah, it's just open to experimentation, really. You mentioned you've got a Carl Martin. I think that that's a terrific option. Some other good AlwaysOn compressors. Sir Koji's super nice. I also use the Cali 76. And it's great AlwaysOn compressor. Both it and the Sir have a mix control, so you can blend in some of your uncompressed sort of parallel dry signal. And I think compressors with mix controls work really, really well as far as retaining transparency, because yeah, some of your transparent guitar signal is actually in the blend. So look for one with a mix control if you want, extreme transparency. There's another one from Barefoot, and I think it's is it the pale green? It doesn't have a mix control, but that compressor works really, really well as kind of a subtle compression box, where, you know, the sound isn't obviously compressed, but you miss it as soon as you turn it off, which is kind of my favorite kind of compression. That's what I really go for. Yeah, I think it's the pale green from Barefoot. Really, really nice compressor, and there's a demo of that one on my YouTube as well as all the other ones I've mentioned, I think. Terry's other question was, he's wondering about, are there any low gain overdrives that react well with modelers? Technically modelers are all designed to react much like tube amps. I mean, as far as the input impedance and stuff like that goes. So you should be able to fairly successfully use your pedals with most modeling units. But once again, it's open to interpretation and experimentation. You just have to try it, see if it sounds good to you. David from Italy is wondering about the pickups that I use in my Sunburst Sur Classic. So he's wondering, did I change them out? Basically, that guitar's got two V60 LPs in it and an SSH, which is I think around a 10K output humbucker. I really like that pickup in that particular guitar, and so even though I've got my own signature Sir Thornbuckers now and stuff, I'm reluctant to change that SSH pickup that's in that guitar because it just sounds really good, and why mess with a good thing? That's just a really good balanced sounding guitar. The other thing I have on that guitar is I have the series parallel switch in one of the tone pots, so I can pull it up and it turns the SSH humbucker into a parallel mode instead of series, and I demonstrate that in my Sir rig rundown from way back in 2011, I think, in Long Beach with Melissa Etheridge. You can search that out on this. I think it's on the Sir YouTube as well as on my YouTube channel. But yeah, I show how that series parallel switch works, and that's just a really versatile setup for any single hum guitar. Putting a series parallel switch for the bridge humbucker seems to work really well, and I almost prefer the parallel mode for a sort of faux single coil sound than I do actually tapping a humbucker to single coil. It sort of retains more character or something to me, and a tapped humbucker by itself can sound a little weak many times. I find it doesn't really do the single coil thing as well as a true single coil pickup. So yeah, I prefer the parallel thing. Andy Wood calls it the redneck mod, and when you tap a humbucker to parallel, and then you can play kind of like a telly or something. Sakari is wondering, is there any new guitarists that I've found that are really inspiring, great players? I've met so many great guitar players in the past while that just blow my mind. So through doing the Tim and Pete guitar show with Tim Pierce, we've gotten to go interview Josh Smith, and we've got an Oz Noy episode coming up. That guy is just mind-blowing. Check out Oz's records. He's fantastic, and Josh is just great too. One thing I really like about Oz is how he kind of stretches the shape of traditional blues progressions and forms and licks and stuff, and he's taking it somewhere else. And I really like that because although I love blues, I find a lot of it can be kind of samey, same progressions over and over again, the same licks. And Oz is doing this thing where he's like just tweaking it enough for my ear anyway, and taking it outside enough, and it's really inspiring. I think Twisted Blues Volume 1 and Volume 2. Check out those albums. Ian Thornley, that guy, just absolutely mind-blowing guitar player. So he's another one of my current favorites, and he's another Sir endorser and a terrific guy as well. Ben Hartwell wants to know, he says he does a lot of live work with backing tracks, and often when at stage volumes he has difficulty hearing himself and the important parts of the track, drums and bass, due to some of the tracks being so dense. It sometimes turns into a mushy mess. Is this something I've ever had to tackle, and how do I get a good balance between guitar and the track? I have noticed that, actually. I don't really do a lot like playing with backing tracks, but the few times I've done it, like where I've had to take, say, a song off my album and then make a backing track so that I could play along with it. I did some backing tracks for the Jam Track Central people, and so there's backing tracks for my song Perplexed as well as Homage, and also the Groomed Noodler, and yeah, I found what I had to do was mix the rhythm guitars lower than I normally would in an actual mix. That was kind of key. So really pump the drums and bass and keep those rhythm guitars down a bit. Otherwise, I found when I tried to play along, maybe the chorus would kick in. It was like just too much guitar going on in a sort of backing track live play along sort of context. So that's the main thing, is the other instruments that are going to kind of battle with your guitar frequency-wise, your main lead guitar part that you're going to play along to the track. Just back that stuff down, kind of thin the track out, and really you just have to experiment. Bounce out a few different versions with some different levels of those competing sort of frequency instruments, and just find the one that works right for you. Okay, last question for today. Andrew Watts is asking, he's got an Axe FX2 and MFC 101 setup, and he's thinking of downsizing it. And I think his question is, what he's saying is that other than being able to run 1 amp at a time, have I come across any other limitations? I think his question must be he wants to go to the new, I believe it's called the AX8. I haven't checked one out yet, but it's the Axe FX unit that's all included with the floorboard and everything. And he's wondering, yeah, if because on that unit you can only run 1 amplifier model at a time. He's wondering if I've come across any other limitations. You know, quite honestly, in the Axe FX, I've never run more than 1 amp model at a time. I've just never experimented with it really. And one thing about the Axe FX is there is so many options in there, and I try and sort of limit those options when I'm using the Axe FX. I don't want to go too crazy because I can find myself spending all my time tweaking the tones and making these sort of complex virtual rigs within that unit. And some guys that's going to work out great for. I mean, I know when I see what Dweezil Zappa does with it and different things, it's just mind-blowing. But you know, everybody's got a different sort of threshold level or tolerance for tech versus actual real-world use and creativity and stuff like that. And I would say that my tolerance level is probably somewhere in the middle of most guys, but yeah, the easier that I can make the Axe FX, the better for me. I was answering a question once again in my Premier Guitar article today about how to set up sounds in a modeling type rig like using the Axe FX, and how to set them up sort of for successful live use. Somebody was asking me, they were saying they were setting up tones at home, they'd take it out, use it on the gig, and they felt like everything was unbalanced and didn't sound good. Well, what I did was I actually, when I set up the Axe FX rig for a tour that I was doing, what I did was I set up in my studio my entire regular guitar rig, and then I set up the Axe FX as well on an A-B switcher, so I could go back and forth and just compare the tones. And I made basically duplicates of every preset in my main guitar rig on the Axe FX, and I would listen to everything, like volume, you know, overdrive level, the tones, the you know, tone, bass, treble, presence, all that stuff, and also a relative balance of effects and things like that. And I just keep banging back and forth with that A-B switch until I got the tone as close as possible. I found then I could take the Axe FX into a rehearsal situation, or I actually used it on TV once without really auditioning some of the tones. It was crazy, and I realized it as I was doing it. I was in New York with Melissa Etheridge doing this TV show, and I saw the songs on the set list. We started playing and everything was cool, but I thought, oh my God, we've never actually played through some of these with the tones that I had set up in my home studio. And you know what? It all translated perfectly. It worked really well. So anyway, but long story short, I tried to limit my options when I set up those tones on the A-B box. What I mean by that is I used one cabinet type, and that was it. Because live, I used my PT100 head and my speaker cabinet, and that's it. And I don't, you know, go between open back and closed back cabinets and different types of speakers and all that stuff. And the speaker type can color the tones so much. I mean, it's the overall filter, final filter on your sound. So I thought I'm going to stick to one cabinet just like I would live. So that's the first thing. And the second thing that I did to kind of limit myself was I used, I think, 3 or 4 different amp models. I picked 3 or 4, and that was it, because that's what I can get out of my amp head, 3 or 4 sort of basic colors or amp tones. So by limiting myself to one cabinet type and just a few sort of the main food groups as far as amplifiers go, and then setting up the whole rig on an A-B switch, I was able to come up with really, really usable balanced tones that closely, super closely mimicked my real guitar rig. And yeah, so long story short, that's a really long answer, but I think that you know, you're not really limiting yourself that much by only using one amp type at a time or anything like that. You know, make it simpler. You'll have more time for playing, basically. Okay, that's it for this week. Please hit me back with some more questions. I'm a little bit backlogged with questions right now, to be honest, but I'll get to your questions as soon as I can in one of these Wednesday Q&A videos. You can once again ask me a question at facebook.com/guitarnerd, and yeah, I'll just get to them as soon as I can. And thanks for watching these. I really appreciate you coming back and checking out these videos. Please hit subscribe if you haven't, and check out all the new gear demos and Tim and Pete's Guitar Show and everything that I'm uploading all the time now. I appreciate your support. All right, I'm Pete Thorn. Take it easy. Over and out.